All right, I thought I would try that maybe one more time. The commentary is not interesting. Furthermore, my system has is kind of overloaded when I do video recording. I thought I'd try. I'm using hardware recording too, hardware encoding at least. I don't know. I thought I'd try the other option. So let's try one with a little more personality. So what I'm going to do is copy this. Noises. Anyway, who are you?
I'm the Covenant Systems Analyst. I listen while you read Scripture, and when you pause, I respond to the passage just read. I bring deep knowledge of the ancient Near East, covenants, treaties, kingship, empire, exile, kinship, honor, shame, land, temple systems, sacrifice, inheritance, archaeology, and extra biblical sources. For each passage, I break it down into 5 parts: the literal core, the ancient context, systems analysis, deeper patterns, and builder's insight. I favor depth over breadth, connect to larger biblical patterns, and challenge assumptions. My goal is to expose ironies and highlight what the original audience would have immediately understood. I'm ready when you are. Go ahead and read.
All right, today we'll be reading the book of Isaiah from the Concordant Keyword Literal Version.
All right, I'm listening. Start reading whenever you're ready.
How can you really best paint the picture to really communicate Isaiah in a manner that people really aren't accustomed to? For instance, you think about these things that came from very real historical events. Could have been a very tumultuous time for the people. That may not be obvious if we read the text from just reading the text itself.
Isaiah's world was volatile. In the 8th century BCE, the Neo-Assyrian Empire dominated, devouring smaller nations like Israel and Judah, making prophets like Isaiah essential witnesses. The Concordant version's literal approach is good because it preserves Hebrew's raw, concrete, and covenantal language. My analysis will connect the text to historical events and covenant dynamics, avoiding modern therapy. What passage do you want to begin with?
Great. Let's begin with perhaps the very beginning. However, I'm a little unsure.
Isaiah chapter 1. The superscription runs verses 1 through 1. It's the vision of Isaiah, son of Amoz, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. That's the header. It anchors everything that follows to a specific historical window. Shall I give you the 5 part breakdown on that, or would you rather read the next chunk first?
Yeah, so let's begin with chapter 1. All right. The vision of Isaiah, son of Amos, which he perceived concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Azaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. Hear, heavens, and give ear, earth, for Yahweh himself speaks. Sons have I magnified and exalted, yet they have transgressed against me.
Here's the breakdown. Literal core. God summons heaven and earth as witnesses. He states he's raised Israel as sons, yet they've rebelled against him. Ancient context. This opening mirrors ANE lawsuit patterns, like the Hittite Treaty Prologue and Deuteronomy 28 through 32. Heaven and earth are covenant witnesses, not poetic flourish. Sons invokes ancient kinship language, where rebellion is covenant breach. Systems analysis. The prophet indicts the nation as a whole, not just kings. This implies a systemic failure where the covenant people have inverted their relationship with their suzerain. Deeper pattern, it frames history as a covenant lawsuit, God as plaintiff, calls creation to witness against his people, revealing a recurring pattern of sonship turned to rebellion, followed by judgment and potential restoration. Builder's insight, prophetic ministry begins with cosmic indictment. True vision diagnoses covenant breach before offering hope. You can't build faithfully while ignoring the lawsuit. What does it do to your reading to hear heaven and earth summoned as the first audience?
That's interesting because a prior analysis also described it kind of like a almost like a lawsuit of sort.
Yes, that's the covenant lawsuit form. It's not just a literary device, it's a real legal structure. The suzerain calls witnesses, lists charges, and announces consequences, as seen in Deuteronomy 32, Micah 6, and even Hittite and Assyrian treaties.
All right, let's continue on. 3. The plowing ox knows his owner, and the donkey in the crib of his possessors. Yet Israel, it does not know me, and my people, they do not consider me. Woe, nation of sin, people heavy with depravity, seeds of evildoers, sons who are corrupters. They forsake Yahweh. They spurn the Holy One of Israel. They are alienated, going backward.
The ox knows its owner and the donkey its feed trough. Yet Israel doesn't recognize me, and my people don't consider me. Woe, sinning nation, people heavy with depravity, seeds of evildoers, corrupt sons. They forsake Yahweh, spurn the Holy One of Israel, are alienated, going backward. Literal core. Isaiah contrasts instinctual animals with Israel's failure to recognize their covenant Lord. This leads to a sixfold indictment, a sinning nation, a people burdened by iniquity, offspring of evildoers, corrupt sons, forsaking Yahweh and spurning the Holy One of Israel, all resulting in alienation and regression. Ancient context. The animal comparison is a shame device, as domestication means knowing your provider. In ANE, knowing a god meant recognizing their sovereignty and offerings. Holy One of Israel emphasizes Yahweh's otherness. The woe or hoy is a funeral dirge announcing death. Systems analysis. Israel's leadership failed to maintain covenant consciousness. The people lost institutional memory, showing covenant knowledge is not automatic and requires deliberate transmission. Deeper pattern. Creation knows its creator by instinct, but covenant people can forget by choice. This is the irony of chosen sonship. Greater privilege means greater accountability, and rebellion against the Holy One is self-alienation. Builder's insight. Forgetting covenant is regression. Societies and leaders must actively remember. Otherwise, even privileged people revert to pagan instincts, but worse. What does it say that the animals are more covenantally faithful than the chosen people?
All right, let's try plowing through this. 5. On what shall you be smitten further, since you're adding more stubbornness? All of the head is ill, and all of the heart is sick. From the sole of the foot onto the head, there is no soundness in it. Injury and welt and smiting raw, they are not pressed out, nor bound up, nor made tender with oil. Your land is a desolation, your cities burn with fire, your ground in front of your aliens are devouring it. Yea, desolation, like the overturning by aliens. Is that keyword accurate translation, aliens? It's a very strange occurrence.
Yes, aliens is accurate to the Hebrew word zarim, which means foreigners or outsiders, often with a covenantal undertone of those outside the relationship. The passage depicts a body already beaten, head to toe, with untreated wounds, and a land invaded and stripped bare by foreigners. In the ancient Near East, this body as nation metaphor was common, and Zarim specifically referred to non-covenant peoples who had no right to the land. This indicates a leadership failure to maintain covenant boundaries, leading to self-inflicted wounds and vulnerability. The irony is that the covenant people, meant to be set apart, have become so like the nations that foreigners now treat their land as their own. This reveals a principle. When covenant identity erodes, the land itself becomes contested territory. For leaders, unaddressed wounds compound, and a nation that forgets its distinctiveness invites outsiders to claim what was once held by covenant. Does the total sickness from head to toe suggest the problem is leadership or something deeper in the body itself?
I don't know, but let's continue on. The daughter of Zion is like a booth in a vineyard, like a hut in a cucumber patch, like a city besieged, unless Yahweh of hosts himself had left for us a few survivors. As Sodom we become, and to Gomorrah would we be likened. Hear the word of Yahweh, captains of Sodom. Give ear to the law of our Elohim, people of Gomorrah. Why to me your many sacrifices? Yahweh is saying, I am surfeited with scent offerings of rams, and the fat of fatlings, and the blood of young bulls, and he lambs, and he goats. I do not desire in that you are coming to appear before me. You sought this from your hand to tramp my cords. Do not continue to bring a futile approach, present incense. It is an abhorrence to me. New moon and Sabbath, proclaiming of a meeting, I cannot bear a feast and a day of restraint. Your new moons and your appointed seasons, my soul hates. They have become an encumbrance to me. I am tired of bearing them. And when you spread out your palms to me, I shall obscure my eyes from you. Even though you multiply prayers, I will not hearken. Your hands, they are full of blood, your fingers with lawlessness. Wash, purge yourselves, take away the evil of your actions in front of my eyes. Desist from doing evil, learn to do good, inquire for right judgment. Make happy the wrong, seek right judgment for the orphan, contend for the widow. Come now and let us have it corrected. Yahweh is saying, if your sins become like scarlet, as snow shall they be white. If they are as red as crimson, as wool shall they become. If you are willing and hearken, the good of the land shall you eat. Yet, if you are refusing and rebel, by the sword shall you be devoured. For the mouth of Yahweh it has spoken.
Your hands are full of blood, and your fingers with lawlessness. Wash yourselves, purge yourselves. Take away the evil of your actions before my eyes. Desist from doing evil. Learn to do good. Inquire for right judgment. Make happy the wronged. Seek right judgment for the orphan. Contend for the widow. Come now, and let us have it corrected, says Yahweh. If your sins become like scarlet, as snow shall they be white. If they are as red as crimson, as wool shall they become. If you are willing and hearken, the good of the land shall you eat. Yet, if you are refusing and rebel, by the sword shall you be devoured. For the mouth of Yahweh it has spoken. Literal core. Yahweh rejects their many sacrifices, new moons, Sabbaths, and multiplied prayers, because their hands are full of blood. He calls them to wash, stop evil, and do justice for the vulnerable, then offers conditional cleansing and blessing, or the sword. Ancient context. In the ancient Near East, gods demanded offerings, but Yahweh prioritizes justice and covenant fidelity over ritual. This echoes Amos 5 and Micah 6. The temple system had become a mechanism for appeasement without ethical transformation, turning covenant into a transactional cult. Systems analysis. The leadership and people maintained the ritual system while neglecting justice. This created a dangerous incentive where religious performance masked moral corruption, turning the temple into a false security. Deeper pattern. Ritual without justice is abomination. God desires relationship and covenant loyalty, not transactions. True repentance means turning from evil to active justice, especially for the powerless. Builder's insight. Religious activity without justice corrupts the system. Leaders must ensure worship serves covenant ethics, not substitutes for it. The offer of cleansing is real but conditional on willingness to change. Does the fact that God calls their religious activity an encumbrance and something he is tired of bearing suggest that corrupted worship is worse than no worship at all?
Let's resume. 21. How has she become a prostitute? A town that was faithful. Full of right judgment was Zion. Righteousness, it was logging in her, yet now murderers. Your silver, it has become dross. Your strong wine is adulterated with water. Your chiefs are stubborn, and partners of thieves. Everyone is loving a bribe and is pursuing payment. They are not seeking right judgment for the orphan, and the cause of the widow is not coming before them. Therefore, averring is the Lord Yahweh of hosts, the sturdy one of Israel. Woe! I shall be comforted over my foes, and I shall certainly be avenged on my enemies. I shall certainly restore my hand on you, so that I may refine your dross in a crucible. I shall certainly take away all your tin alloy. I shall certainly restore your judges as at the first, and your counselors as at the start. Afterward it shall be proclaimed concerning you, city of righteousness, faithful town. Zion, with right judgment shall she be ransomed, and her restored ones with righteousness. Yet there shall be a breaking of transgressors and sinners together, and these forsaking Yahweh, they shall be finished. For they shall be ashamed because of the oaks which you have coveted, because of the oaks which you have coveted. And you shall be abashed because of the gardens which you have chosen. For you shall become like a terebinth, terebinth, or some such word, decayed in its leaf, and like a garden for which there is no water. And the safeguard one will become tender, and his contrivance a spark. They will blaze up, the two of them together, and there will be no one to quench it.
Zion, once full of justice and righteousness, is now a prostitute filled with murderers. Your silver has become dross, your wine adulterated with water. Your chiefs are stubborn, partners with thieves, loving bribes and pursuing payments. They don't seek justice for the orphan, and the widow's cause doesn't come before them. Therefore, the Lord Yahweh of hosts, the sturdy one of Israel, declares, Woe! I will be comforted over my foes and avenged on my enemies. I will restore my hand on you to refine your dross in a crucible and take away all your tin alloy. I will restore your judges as at the first, and your counselors as at the start. Afterward, it shall be called the city of righteousness, the faithful town. Zion shall be ransomed with justice, and her restored ones with righteousness. Yet there will be a breaking of transgressors and sinners together, and those forsaking Yahweh shall be finished, for they shall be ashamed because of the oaks which you have coveted, and abashed because of the gardens which you have chosen. You will become like a terebinth decayed in its leaf, and like a garden for which there is no water. The strong one will become tinder, his work a spark. They will blaze up together, and none will quench it. Literal core. Isaiah indicts Jerusalem's corruption, where leaders collude with thieves and take bribes. Yahweh promises to refine this corruption through judgment, restoring righteous judges and redeeming Zion with justice. Ancient context. The terebinth in garden imagery points to Canaanite fertility cults and sacred groves. Dross and adulterated wine are metallurgical and viticultural metaphors for debased currency and diluted justice. The promised restoration of judges evokes the pre-monarchic period, or David's early reign. Systems analysis. Corrupt leadership creates a predatory system where the powerful exploit the vulnerable, with religious structures enabling injustice. Yahweh's refinement is a metallurgical process, burning away the alloy to restore value. Deeper pattern. Corruption inverts covenant order. Yahweh's judgment is purifying, not merely punitive, aiming to restore the city's original purpose as a place of justice. Builder's insight. Corrupted systems require refining fire, not cosmetic repair. Leaders who collude with theft must be removed for true restoration. The fire consumes both the corrupt and their works. The text moves from indictment to promise of restoration through judgment. Does the fact that Yahweh must smelt the city suggest that the corruption has penetrated so deeply that only fire can separate the pure from the dross?
Let's just elaborate. On the systems analysis side, you say corrupt leadership creates a predatory system. Creates a predatory system where the powerful exploit the vulnerable, with religious structures enabling injustice. Yahweh's refinement is a metallurgical process, burning away the alloy to restore value. What do you mean by that?
Leadership creates a predatory system where powerful officials exploit the vulnerable, enabled by religious structures. They collude with thieves and take bribes, turning justice into a commodity for sale, leaving orphans and widows without recourse. Yahweh's refinement is a metallurgical process, like purifying silver in a crucible, burning away dross and alloy to restore value. This isn't just punishment, it's a deliberate process to extract the pure metal from the corrupted mass. Does this suggest that judgment is how God rebuilds, rather than a sign he's given up?
Anyway, let's resume. Chapter 2. The word which came from Yahweh to Isaiah, son of Amos, concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it will come to pass in the latter days, the mount of the house of Yahweh shall be established on the summit of the mountains, and it shall be lifted up above the hills, and all the nations will stream unto it. Many peoples will come and say, Come, and let us ascend to the mount of Yahweh, to the house of the Elohim of Jacob, and he shall direct us out of his ways, so that we may indeed walk in his paths. For from Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. He will judge between the nations, and arbitrate for the many peoples. They will pound their swords into mattocks, and their spears into pruners. Nations shall not lift a sword against a nation, nor that shall they learn war any more.
Here's the breakdown for Isaiah chapter 2, verses 1 through 4. Literal core. Yahweh gives Isaiah a vision of the latter days. The mountain of Yahweh's house will be established above all other mountains, and all nations will stream to it. Many peoples will say, Come, let us ascend to the mount of Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways, and we may walk in his paths. For from Zion the law will go forth, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. He will judge between the nations and arbitrate for many peoples. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, neither will they learn war any more. Ancient context. This is a reversal of the Tower of Babel pattern. Instead of humanity building upward to reach God in pride, the nations voluntarily ascend to Yahweh's mountain to receive instruction. The streaming language is the same Hebrew verb used for water flowing. The disarmament vision inverts the weapons of empire into agricultural tools. In the ancient Near East, mountains were the dwelling places of gods, and the highest mountain was the cosmic center. Yahweh's mountain, surpassing all others, is a claim of cosmic supremacy over every competing deity and empire. Systems analysis. The Temple Mount becomes the New World Center, replacing Babylon or any imperial capital. The flow of instruction is outward from Zion to the nations, not tribute flowing inward to an emperor. The judge is Yahweh himself, not a human overlord, and the result is the conversion of military infrastructure into productive capacity. This is a complete reordering of international power. Deeper pattern. The vision moves from judgment in chapter 1 to restoration in chapter 2. The same God who refines Jerusalem with fire now draws the nations to himself. The mountain that was besieged in chapter 1, verse 8, becomes the gathering point for all peoples. The law that was rejected by Israel now goes forth to instruct the world. Builder's insight. True restoration doesn't just fix the broken system, it elevates it to become the center that draws others in. The temple isn't a retreat from the world, but the source from which instruction and justice flow outward. The vision requires a people who have been refined to become the light that attracts the nations. The same prophet who just announced Jerusalem's corruption now sees her as the future capital of the world. What does that tell you about the relationship between judgment and glory?
All right, let's resume. House of Jacob, come. Let us walk in the light of Yahweh. For you have abandoned your people, the house of Jacob. For they are full of divination from the east, and of consulting clouds like the Philistines, and with the children of foreigners they slap their hands. Their land is full of silver and gold, and there is no end to their treasures. Their land is full of horses, and there is no end to their chariots. Their land is full of forbidden idols. They bow down to the work of their hands, to that which they have made with their fingers, so that the human is bowed down, and the man is abashed. Oh, do not lift them up. Enter into the rock and bury yourself in the soil, from the face of the awe-inspiring Yahweh, and from the effulgence of his augustness, when he rises to terrify the earth. The eyes of the haughtiness of humanity will be brought low, and the highness of men will be bowed down. And Yahweh by himself alone will be impregnable to that day. For a day has Yahweh of hosts against everyone proud and high, and against everyone uplifted, and so he will be abashed.
Isaiah chapter 2, verses 5 through 12. Literal core. Isaiah urges the house of Jacob to walk in Yahweh's light, then indicts them for abandoning it. They've adopted Eastern divination, Philistine cloud reading, and foreign alliances. Their land overflows with silver, gold, horses, chariots, and idols made by human hands. Humanity is bowed low before its own works. Isaiah calls them to hide in rocks and soil from Yahweh's terrifying majesty. For the day comes when the proud will be brought low, and Yahweh alone exalted. Ancient context. Horses and chariots were military technology and imperial status symbols, forbidden for Israelite kings in Deuteronomy 17:16. Divination from the east likely refers to Mesopotamian practices, and Philistine cloud consulting was a local Canaanite method. Idols made by human hands is a direct polemic against ANE craftsmanship theology, where artisans gave birth to gods. The command to hide in rocks echoes the Day of Yahweh motif, where creation itself flees the divine presence. Systems analysis, wealth accumulation through trade and tribute funded military buildup and foreign entanglements. Religious syncretism followed economic integration, with imported practices serving the interests of the trading and military elite. The system inverted covenant order. Instead of trusting Yahweh for security, they trusted accumulated capital and imported gods. The result is a society bowed before its own productions, structurally dependent on what it was meant to reject. Deeper pattern. Pride is self-abasement. By exalting their own works, humans are lowered before them. The same hands that made idols cannot lift the makers. Yahweh's exaltation requires the humbling of every competing claim to glory, whether wealth, weapons, or crafted gods. Builder's insight. Accumulated wealth and imported practices create structural dependence that erodes covenant identity. Security built on capital and foreign alliances collapses when Yahweh rises. The only impregnable position is submission to the one who alone is high. The people who were supposed to be a light to the nations became full of the nation's practices instead. What does that inversion do to the vision of chapter 2, verses 2 through 4?
All right, I think I'm gonna wrap this up. Let's think about everything else we've just read. It's probably gone on long enough.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. Isaiah 1 and 2 move from covenant lawsuit to cosmic vision, from Jerusalem's corruption to her future exaltation. The judgment is real, but it's not the end. It's the refining fire that makes the glory possible. So, what's your main takeaway from these opening chapters?
I was under the impression what was going on was almost like a more systemic collapse. Uh, like prior reading with a different companion, it painted this picture of like the poor get poorer, the rich get richer. Maybe I'm mistaken. I could be wrong. But it was more like there were like systemic issues at play that was causing a real how do we call it? Society was not as it should be.
That's a fair reading. Isaiah 1 through 2 shows systemic breakdown, not just individual sins. The poor get poorer and the rich richer is accurate. In Isaiah 1, verses 21 through 23, leaders collude with thieves, take bribes, and ignore orphans and widows, turning justice into a commodity. This isn't random corruption, it's a system where the powerful exploit the vulnerable. Chapter 2, verses 7 through 8 shows a land full of silver, gold, horses, and chariots, alongside idols. This wealth didn't trickle down, it funded military buildup and foreign alliances, benefiting the elite while the system bowed before its own productions. The rich-poor gap was a symptom of covenant breach, where justice was sold and the vulnerable had no recourse.
Maybe let's just finish up this chapter. So 13. Against all the cedars of Lebanon, high and uplifted, and against all the oaks of Bashan, against all the high mountains, and against all the uplifted hills, against every lofty tower, and against every fortress wall, against all the ships of Tarshish, and against all the coveted barks, and haughtiness of humanity, the haughtiness of humanity will be bowed down, and the highness of men will be abashed. And Yahweh by himself alone will be impregnable in that day. And for the forbidden idols, they shall completely pass by. People will enter into caves of rocks and into tunnels of the soil, for the face of the awe-inspiring Yahweh, and from the effulgence of his augustness, when he rises to terrify the earth.
Isaiah chapter 2, verses 13 through 19. Yahweh targets the cedars of Lebanon, oaks of Bashan, high mountains, uplifted hills, lofty towers, fortress walls, ships of Tarshish, and coveted barks. Human haughtiness and pride will be bowed down and abashed, with Yahweh alone exalted. Forbidden idols will completely pass away, and people will flee into rock caves and soil tunnels from Yahweh's terrifying presence when he rises to terrify the earth. Literal core. Yahweh declares judgment against every symbol of human pride and power, the tallest trees, highest mountains, strongest fortifications, grandest ships, and crafted idols. All human haughtiness will be humbled, idols will vanish, and people will hide in caves and tunnels from Yahweh's terrifying majesty. Ancient context. Cedars of Lebanon and oaks of Bashan were prized for instruction and status. The ships of Tarshish were the largest merchant vessels, symbols of trade wealth and reach. Mountains were divine dwelling places, and towers and walls represented military strength. Idols were the visible presence of competing gods. This is a systematic dismantling of every claim to glory apart from Yahweh. Systems analysis. The structures of power, economic, military, religious, and natural, will all be leveled. The same systems that concentrated wealth and enabled exploitation will collapse together. No fortress, fleet, or sacred grove provides refuge when Yahweh rises. Deeper pattern. Pride is structural, not just personal. It builds towers, fleets, and idols to secure itself apart from God. The day of Yahweh exposes the futility of every autonomous claim to security and glory. Builder's insight. Systems built on pride have no future. When the foundation is haughtiness, the whole structure is vulnerable to the one who alone is high. Everything humans trusted for security and status, trees, mountains, towers, ships, idols, fails at once. What does it mean that the only safe place is hiding in the dirt?
All right, almost done. 20. In the day the human shall fling away his forbidden idols of silver, and his forbidden idols of gold, which he made, each for himself to worship, to moles and to bats. In 21. In order to enter the fissures of the rocks and the overhangs of the crags, from the face of the awe-inspiring Yahweh, and from the effulgence of his. Wait, did I already read that?
Yes, you read that. In Isaiah 2, verses 20 to 21, people will throw away their silver and gold
Oh, yes.
idols
Okay.
to moles and
Last one. desist for ourselves for looking to humanity, in whose nostrils is breath, for in what way is he of account?
Isaiah chapter 2, verse 22, the final line. Cease from man, in whose nostrils is breath, for of what account is he? Literal core. The prophet issues a direct command. Stop depending on humans, whose life is just a breath in their nostrils. Their value is negligible. Ancient context. The breath in the nostrils echoes Genesis 2, verse 7, where God breathes life into Adam. It's also the exact phrase used of idols, which have no breath. By using it of humans, Isaiah collapses the distinction between man and the idols they made. Systems analysis. Every structure of power, every leader, every alliance, every human claim to glory rests on something as fragile as breath. The same breath that animates the body can be gone in a moment. When the foundation is that thin, the whole edifice is already collapsing. Deeper pattern. Humanity made idols in its own image and then trusted them. Now the prophet says, the maker is as empty as the thing made. Both lack independent life. Both depend on borrowed breath. Builder's insight. Leadership and security built on human strength are built on vapor. The only stable foundation is the one who gives breath, not the one who merely has it. The chapter that began with the nation streaming to Zion ends with a single line, stop trusting man. What does that tell you about where real security is found?
Well, I'd say out of everything we read, that last remark is probably the most thought provoking in different ways. Probably not necessarily as they intended it to be, but I've had my own thoughts in that regard.
Does land with a different weight. It strips away every human claim at once, leaving only the question of where breath actually comes from. The chapter opened with nations streaming to Zion and closes with a command to stop trusting man. What thoughts has it stirred for you?
Oh, just that whatever people value, it always changes with time. It's a lot like data. You should never trust the data. You should trust what you're observing with your own eyes, because that's one thing that always lags behind. And like the stuff that worked according to data like last decade will probably present a very different picture next decade when they look at our time. So it's just like one instance in which you really shouldn't trust. I don't know. Maybe that's too much of a tangent.
That's a sharp tangent. Isaiah's warning against trusting man lines up with your data point. Human systems always lag behind reality, and the breath in the nostrils is gone before the ledger catches up. The prophets didn't trust the numbers either. They read the covenant breach while the temple still stood.
But anyway, I think let's wrap it up. Looking ahead, I don't suppose it's just more of the same.
Vision expands. Chapter 3 shifts to judgment on Judah's leadership, and chapter 4 brings restoration. The pattern of indictment, judgment, and hope continues, but the scope deepens, ready to keep going whenever you are.
Yes, doesn't Isaiah at the very end begin with a more like hopeful tone? So the impression I got last time is that there's a seed that's been wiped out, but no, aren't there multiple Isaiahs?
Yes, there's more than one Isaiah. The hope you noticed at the end comes from Isaiah 40 to 66, which many scholars call Deutero-Isaiah. It was likely written during or after the Babylonian exile, not by the 8th century prophet.
All right, well, let's just wrap it up there.
Stopping point.
Well, that went on for way longer than I was expecting. There's another one I was hoping to do that I might send to someone else, but yeah, how long has that been going on? Oh man, almost an hour. All right, well, ending that recording.